Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Step into the world of power, loyalty, and luck.
I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
With family, cannolis, and spins mean everything.
Now, you wanna get mixed up in the family business.
Introducing The Godfather at ChumbaCasino.com. Test your luck in the shadowy world of The Godfather slot.
Someday, I will call upon you to do a service for me.
Play The Godfather now at ChumbaCasino.com.
Welcome to the family.
VGW Group. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Hello, it is Ryan, and we could all use an extra bright spot in our day, couldn't we? Just to make up for things like sitting in traffic, doing the dishes, counting your steps, all the mundane stuff. That is why I'm such a big fan of Chumba Casino. Chumba Casino has all your favorite social casino-style games that you can play for free anytime, anywhere with daily bonuses. That should brighten your day a little. Actually, a lot. So sign up now at ChumbaCasino.com. That's ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void where prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Welcome to the Wrap Podcast, the place to catch up on all the regional and national rugby in Wales. You can find us on all the usual social media platforms and message us through there if you want, or you can email us on welshregionalrugbypod@gmail.com. So all the boring stuff out the way, let's talk rugby.
Hello and welcome to this week's edition of the Rap Podcast with me, Lee G, and joining me as usual, Jamie and Harley. Good evening, gentlemen.
Good evening.
Good evening.
And so joining us this week in a rather special one. So Carwyn's working all week, so we couldn't fit it in any night of the week with Carwyn, but I will be doing a bonus pod with him when the teams are released later in the week. So filling in Carwyn's boots this evening. So I want to get this right. So freelance journalist, currently working with Rugby World, Rugby Europe, and I can't read my handwriting, Francisco.
Don't worry.
I scribbled it down. Is it fair play?
Yeah, 10 points.
So, Francisco, welcome to the pod, mate. So we'll just let everyone know that you're a bit of an expert on Portuguese rugby. Would that be fair to say?
The word how do you say it? Sorry, no, I missed the word. But I'm not a specialist. I won't say I was a specialist because every time I hear it in the news today is just someone trying to sell something that isn't real. So I'll say I'm a very passionate person about Portugal, Georgia, and Romania, but I'm Portuguese, so 100% more passionate about Portugal. Yes.
Fantastic. Right, well, we'll start with the usual, gents, with drink of the week. So Harley's already got an excuse for not taking his baby sham fine, and that excuse is, Harley?
They won't sell it to anyone under 65.
Which is just the fucking worst excuse. You're going to have to grow a set of balls, go and get a baby sham, and just...
There's some stuff in there, the back of... I mean, obviously you can't see it because it's an audio podcast, but behind his drinks cabinet, I can find things that are worse than baby sham if people really want me to start drinking that. But
I had the thing that I brought back from Ibiza called... I think it's called hibiscus.
Syphilis.
No, it's like a green... It's like a green thing that's like very, very aniseedy, and then it's got like plants growing in it, and you're like, oh, that's just bizarre. And oh my lord, it hits the back of the throat and then it rips your throat as it goes down. Anyway, well, what have you got for us this week, Harley?
So obviously last week I was away on holiday in Cornwall with my family, and I'm still not quite ready to finish my holiday. So I'm drinking Korev, which is a very nice Cornish lager.
A Cornish lager. Okay, I'll let you get away with it this week just because, you've been on holiday.
And as we've got no Colin, I'll do that. I'll be the one who reads the blurb. So,
Got it.
born on Cornish shores, open horizons inspired us, and nature's elements shaped us. Pale gold like the morning sun, fresh and crisp like a coastal breeze, full on refreshment like waves crashing against our shores. This is the coast in a bottle. Drink it all in.
He's dead sexy.
Oh, crikey, you're right. Francisco, what what have you got, mate?
Well, I had two drinks this weekend. The first one, I went to a very nice bar here in Madeira Funchal, where I live, which was a Moscow Mule. I think you drank once in your life. If you're not, it's very nice sour. But I got home and I wanted a second one, but I didn't want to do with vodka because I don't fancy vodka. After drinking Moscow Mule, okay, now I have to fancy vodka, but I did a Portuguese Moscow Mule. So Portuguese Mule, which I substituted with something we call here in Portuguese licor beirão. It's a sweet drink. It was not perfect, but sweet and sour because it tastes like Portuguese Arabica at the moment. We have the sweet part that tries and the sour part, which is when our set piece falls apart. So it's drink from home.
I can see a book coming along with all of the strange and bizarre drinks that our guests kind of. Do you remember when Philippa Touchett came on, guys, and she had some bizarre drink that she'd had like the week before during the Sevens tournament? No, I'm thinking that would just make an excellent book, along with Jamie's whatever Jamie's got. So what have you got this week, Jamie?
Well, I've got something sensible. I haven't got any of those silly beers. I haven't got a novelty beer tonight, which is going to disappoint a lot of people I know. But tonight I've got cider, a French cider, and I don't know if this is pronounced it right. It's Gali Petit or Gali Petit, I think, something like that. I know you can't really see because it's blurred, but that's what it is. 4.5%. I'm not going to read a blurb like Harley because it's all in French. So I can't read it. So I can't tell you what it says. All I know is it's a French cider. It's 4.5 and it's called Gali Petit. And it's actually a very nice drop. I quite like this.
Okay.
So cheers.
Well, I'm still on my got a funny name thing. So my one this week it's called the Thirsty Ferret from the Badger Brewery. And it's just a beer, but then it's got this whole blurb on the back about this ferret that used to break into a pub and drink the beer overnight and get pissed. So how that relates to the beer that's in here, I'm not quite sure, but that's what it's named after. So it's called the Thirsty Ferret by Badger, and it's like a proper old school beer. It's a proper reddish, nice touch malty. It says biscuity on there, but how do you have a biscuity beer? Mind you, some of the stuff that we've had in the past, yeah.
I've had biscuity beers on this pod, as you well know.
Yeah, but those are things like Jammy Dodger and
I was going to say,
Supreme, not like
still, well, when they biscuits.
Yeah,
still biscuit related.
Yeah.
Careful listening to rock and roll.
Anyway, gents, we've got loads of stuff to get through this week, so no crap news desk introduction for you this week, Jane. Just what's on the news desk for us, mate?
Okay, so let's quickly rattle through some news then. So the biggest news in Welsh rugby in the last week was that the new owners of the Dragons have been confirmed after a deal with the Welsh Rugby Union was all but completed. So we know that the consortium comprises of Chairman David Buttress, who we've had on the pod. We know all about him. David Wright and Ho Young Hu. Very interesting individual. So David Wright is a former CEO of Paris-based pharmaceutical firm HRA Pharma, and he played rugby at first-class level for Newbridge, Cardiff, Pontypool and Leicester. So good rugby knowledge there to go with very good business skills. Ho Young Hu is an interesting one. So he's a Silicon Valley-based entrepreneur, and he's also part owner of the Miami Marlins baseball team. And he's also involved with Californian biopharmaceutical company Peak Bio Incorporated, and he's had business dealings with Buttress in the past, so that's how the connection is there. So it's pretty much a done deal now. They own the Dragons, they own Ronnie Parade, and that's good news for the Dragons, and it's good news for Welsh Rugby. So I'm very pleased this announcement is finally done, signed and sealed over the line, and happy days. But the announcement was a bit weird because it was on a Friday night, just as the Rugby World Cup was starting to kick off. And I know a lot of people say, well, why did it come out now at this time? It's a bit weird. So what I do know is that it actually got delayed. So that announcement should have been on the Wednesday, but stuff going on with the union and other stuff I can't say meant that they had to push it back to Friday. But it's all done. It's all very good news, and I'm sure you'll agree. It's just good news, isn't it, really, for Dragons and Welsh Rugby, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, tidy. So what else have we got?
So Ospreys, they've announced their home and away jerseys today, the new ones, celebrating the 20th anniversary of the Welsh club. First thing I noticed when you look at the Ospreys statement, they're not referring themselves as a franchise anymore. They've cut that nonsense out now and they're referring themselves as a club, which is fine. That's exactly how it should be, in my humble opinion, but just something I picked up there. The new kits are made of eco fabric, which is 100% polyester textile made from recycled plastic. So have any of you seen these kits?
Yeah, the away looks bloody dreadful.
I don't know. I quite like it's different. You know,
I've seen your lucky beret.
Hey, my lucky beret made an appearance on the Rugby World Cup. There was like a whole row of people with my lucky beret on. So careful what we say about lucky beret. But yeah, I think the Ospreys kit it's a dividing one. It's a bit like the European kit last year. You either love it or you hate it. And at least they're making an effort, you know. That's what I'll say. I don't know if they were my team, yeah, I'd probably get behind it and I'd go, yeah, this is great, it's fantastic. As a neutral or a non-Ospreys fan, it's kind of like, yeah, it's all right. It's it's doable. Put it that way. Good for the Ospreys.
Yeah, it's very divisive away kit, isn't it? Some people say they love it, other people say they hate it. I don't mind it. I think it's quite bold. You know, it gets people talking. It probably will sell pretty well, but it's just one of those things, isn't it? It's a quiet taste, I think. So, staying down west then, the Scarlets, now they're playing the Barbarians this weekend at Parc y Scarlets, Saturday, 2:30 p.m. Alan Shingler's coming out of retirement to play for the Barbarians, and it was announced today that Rob Evans will also be getting a run out for the Barbars against his own teammates. So that's quite nice. Two beloved former Scarlets returning to the Parc y Scarlets. Are you going to that one, Lee? Will you be there for that?
No, it's return to university weekend, so I shall be up and down the M4. But so Aaron Shingler played for third division or second division Hendy on the weekend at number 8.
Oh.
And Rob Evans has been playing for Haverfordwest. I'm assuming he played last weekend. So yeah, be quite interesting to see both of those boys back. And I think they're showing the Portugal game in the barn, either before or after or whatever. Yeah, so
it's after the game they're showing it in the barn. That's correct.
Yeah. There we go.
Okay, yep. That's all the news for me then. Let's get straight into it.
Lovely, jubbly. Okay, so we're just during the Rugby World Cup, so we're gonna add in a little Rugby World Cup news desk. So Harley, what have we got from the Rugby World Cup so far?
So just gonna run through score. So we had starting off before anything else, we had the opening ceremony with the bizarre. I can't describe what on earth I was watching. I don't know if anyone else has any opinions. The man gestures a cockerel riding on the back of a bike. Some absolute awful line-up lifting technique, I have to say, at various points. And I've seen it, other people made a comparison, but it's perfectly apt. But if anyone's watched Monty Python, The Holy Grail, whenever God appears, of the appearance of William Webb Ellis and in the French Show to play rugby, it's just I honestly do not know what to make of that opening ceremony. I said, if anyone's got any comments other than it being weird.
I love the guy with the hat, just running around with a red hand going like this, pretending to be a cockerel. I thought, how French can you get? I've got an image now of people going to French games with one red hand and just sitting there and doing this. I think it'd be brilliant for myself. But Francisco, what did you make of it, mate?
Well, it was an opening. I think it's something I can say. It was an opening. I don't know if it was a good opening, but I've seen a lot of French movies in my life, and not the comedies, the dramas, and the weird part of the French cinema, and that was the weird part of French cinema and drama class. I have to say it was kind of strange, and then the anthems rolled in, and it got really strange. I don't know if you were expecting this, but well, it was something. You know that meme, the with the guy doing this with the arm and saying it's something. Well, for me, it was something.
So moving on from that opening ceremony, we kicked off with an absolute cracker of a game between France and the All Blacks, with France running out 27-13 victors. I thought it was an absolutely fantastic game. I thought the All Blacks were quite in it for the most part. I think you could tell things maybe not necessarily to plan as they thought, with Sam Cane dropping out early, no Geordie Barrett. But I mean, what probably the best opening game for, well, that I certainly remember watching for the World Cup.
Well, I was around during the first World Cup, and I don't remember it being televised. It was on at ridiculous o'clock in the morning. So we'll have to just accept that, given everything apart from the first World Cup, put it that way.
Yeah. Francisco, Jamie, any thoughts on the All Black France game?
Do you want to go first, Francisco?
Well, I'm a bit of an All Blacks fan since I started playing rugby, and if the first half thought things were going well, in the second half everything fell apart. I think the All Blacks is one of those teams that don't have 30 players anymore. They have 20, and if well 2 or 3 pieces fall apart or don't make it to the game, then everything starts to shake a bit. I'm going to say something very complicated, as I still don't believe Mounga with Barrett. Sorry, this experiment didn't pan out anything in 2019 and won't pan anything out in 2023. It will be better if they put Mackenzie with Barrett, because I just don't. Monk is a world class player, but he's not a world class player in the All Blacks. He has that massive tackle, yeah, but aside of from that, what did he bring to the game? Not even the kicking. So, and he's not a Liebok. Sorry to say, people are gonna start laughing at me, but Liebok still managed to give a victory in a World Cup for his team, and Mounga, well, with his experience, I think it went down. And the All Blacks lose forward without Kane, and now they have Blackadder, who should be a part of the team since the beginning, but without Kane and Frizel, Vai and Papaili, they are not players to start on the team, and that's that. And France is incredible. Aldri, I know people are in love with Dupont for the last 5 years, but Aldri is maybe for me the best number 8 in the last 15 years. Do whatever you want with this information, but there's something in him that is very special.
It was a good game, wasn't it? It was a decent opening game. I don't think France were at their best, if I'm being honest. I think they can go up several gears. In some ways, it didn't really matter who the winner of this game is, because let's be honest, both these teams are getting out to the pool. Sorry, Italy, I'd love to see Italy go through, but I just can't see it. But the concern for me for France is now they're starting to pick up injuries at the wrong time. And I just wonder, will that derail them? I don't think it will, but I am a little concerned now that all these injuries are starting to pile up. I don't think New Zealand was terrible, as everyone said. I mean, it was only in the last sort of 15 minutes, last quarter of the game, that France really started to pull away. But I think they've got some work to do, New Zealand. I still think they'll be there or thereabouts in the World Cup, but they've seriously got some work to do, I think. Will Jordan was in my fantasy team and he did not have a very good game at all. I'm really annoyed about that. I knew I should have gone for Mark Taylor on the other way. I knew I should have picked him. I thought, no, I'll go for Will Jordan, and I got that choice, so I'll be wrong. But yeah, it was a decent game. France are probably now going to get out to the pool, aren't they, as pool winners? So that sets them up nicely. But yeah, I think New Zealand got a fair bit of work to do, but I still expect them to be getting out to the pool and possibly quarters or semi-finals.
Yeah, moving swiftly, I'm going to go. So for the rest, so then we can move on to Saturday. So there's 4 games. I want to just briefly go over Italy. Absolutely did a number on Namibia. It was quite, Namibia gave a relatively good account of themselves, but you can tell that their closest rival regularly is teams like Kenya, and they're more focused on sevens. There's a lot of semi-pros. A couple of players playing in the MLR, which when I've had conversations with David Lawrence of Scrum the Earth, he says, MLR players are sort of like NPC semi-pro standard, really. So, I mean, yeah, that kind of told. Then we move on to Ireland, Romania. Ireland just decided that they want to be absolute bullies and have no fun and annihilate them 82-8. And then move on to Australia, Georgia, which actually was a very weird game for me, Australia, Georgia. So Australia won 35-15. And I can't work out if Australia are better than everyone's been hyping them up to be, or Georgia aren't, or Georgia just weren't as good as people thought. That's because, someone who specialises in sort of like that second division of European rugby, Francisco, I don't know if you've got an opinion on the Romania and from the Romania and Georgia perspectives.
Yeah, let me talk first for Georgia. We'll start with a bit of, I won't say good news, but better news. I think Georgia didn't play at the level they wanted. If you cut the game in first half and second half, you could see the real Georgia in the second half. First, they started with a strategy that isn't theirs, which is kicking a lot, and bad kicking. Niniashvili, Lobshaniche, even Matkova, the kicking didn't pan out. And Australia were quite happy with it. They just had to wait for the ball, and in 2 or 3 times go up and score points or make a dent. But in the second half, everything transformed. At some point, I thought Georgia was going to win the game. And that point was when Niniashvili broke the line and they scored like a try 4 minutes earlier. And he was an advantage with seven attackers to 4 defenders. And he just did 2 mistakes. The first one was not giving the ball to the left. And the second one was when he dropped to the floor in a desperate move to not lose the pace, he just offloaded like it was like a loaf of bread, and to pull like the big fella he is, think that little bread, put some butter in it, and just went for the try line, and it was a try, and that was it for Georgia. I believe they can do a dent still in the World Cup, but their best opportunity to score a big win, it was in this match. Because I saw Wales, Fiji, and with all honesty, I think Fiji are still the top dogs in the pool. If they can keep the weight, if this defeat against Wales breaks them apart mentally, then Georgia will win against Fiji. But I think the Fijians are at the moment a more serious team than we saw it in 2019, 15, or 11 or 7.
Absolutely.
As for Romania, if you want me to be quick, I talked today, Monday, with Vlad Nicolau, so their flanker, for an interview that's coming out. And, well, they were quite sad, but their focus was already on the Springbok match. And he even said to me that they expect to win at least 1 match, but they want to win 2, so they are targeting Scotland. I don't know. Yeah, they lost by 80 points against Ireland, but if there's a team that can do something very strange at this World Cup, I will pay my money to be Romania or Chile. So don't discount them because they took a dent of 80 points against the number 1 team in the world.
I said, and Lee, have you got anything to add on those games, or should we go straight on to we'll go for the headline the headline one for Saturday night, which is I use headline very loosely because possibly one of the most, as someone who loves low-scoring tactical kicking games, this was possibly the worst game of rugby I've ever seen. Than the Bernard Jackman Dragons. Sorry, Jamie.
Oh, blimey, must be bad. That must be bad.
So England, George Ford kicked England Dragons screen into a 27-10 victory over Argentina. And I'll be honest, at times, I think the 10 flattered Argentina. If I'm going to be really brutal, they were far better than that game suggests. I don't know what it was, whether it was the pressure of being favourites or what, or if it was just George Ford realising that his team literally butchered a 5-on-2 and went, screw it, I'm going to kick the living daylights out of this ball and we will win that way. Obviously, the big controversy, not so much for the incident itself, but other incidents the following days or incidents that might be missed. I'm going to try and avoid talking too much about referees at the moment because, frankly, I'm just fed up of it. But the Tom Curry red card, so fairly early, within the first couple of minutes, Argentina player jumps up to collect a high ball. Tom Curry's waiting there to make a tackle and basically head-on-head contact. For me, straight red. It's head-to-head. He's got plenty of time to get lower. And if you're using the excuse of the sudden drop of a player who's in the air, what you're trying to say, Tom Curry was trying to hit him in the air, which in itself is always an illegal offence. So I'm not going to... I mean, people can make with that what they will, but for me, it was perfect. That was a perfect red card.
Yeah, I think the disappointing thing with this and with other decisions is that people are trying to defend head-on-head contact, and it's a bit like when I was growing up, a scrum, you'd go down into a scrum, and then one side of you would take 2 steps back and take a run and charge, and then we went, hang on a second, this is getting ridiculous now, and it's we need to calm this down. And bit by bit, we've got to where we are now, and actually, it's the contact in the scrum doesn't make any difference. So it was a slow process. It took time to get used to this new way of scrummaging and what have you. And almost the same in a line-out where you weren't allowed to lift. You were allowed to support if somebody lifted and stuff like that. So it takes time. But this is different because we're dealing with people's brains. And I had a couple of conversations. I had one really bizarre conversation with a woman whose son is a rugby player and who is studying, according to her, head injuries. And he's in an academy, and all of the rest of the boys in the academy are going to go, if they get red carded, they're going to go play league because they don't like this whole thing about head contact being a red card. And sometimes you just have to stop arguing with people because the level of stupidity is just off the scale. I can argue a pretty stupid argument if I want to and just wind people up. But when you get to that level, we go, my son's going to stop playing rugby because he can't headbutt somebody when they're playing, is just a ridiculous argument. So I think sometimes people, do need to step back and go, actually, it's a period of adjustment, but we do need to get lower. And sometimes we need to pull out of contact because, we're not going to make the right contact. And that's hard for a player because they've been drilled into, especially if you're back row, your job is to kill the opposite 10 or 9. So I've got some sympathy for Tom Curry, but as a professional, he should be doing better than that. And, he knows he should be doing better than that. It's the people on social media that are trying to defend and say that this wasn't a red card. And yes, there have been other incidents that were as bad as this that probably should have been treated the same way. But, we will get to a stage where every head-on-head contact or every head contact will result in a card of some sort unless people start tackling properly. So anyway, I'll shut up now.
I just want to bring up a little stat that Squidge Rugby posted earlier. So basically, these 4 red cards that England have had in their last 6 games is more than Wales, Italy, South Africa, Samoa, Namibia, and Chile have had in the last 4 years, with Italy, South Africa, and Samoa all having one each. That's you've got to ask: is this a coaching issue, or are they just not quite getting it right? Because when England get their tackling right, it is very dominant, very physical. Manu Tuilagi's was probably on the line with that massive shot that he did.
Mm-hmm.
As a sort of aside from that, I think we've worked out why Manu Tuilagi hasn't been working in England, and that's because he's like George North. He's not a centre; he's a flanker now. We just need to accept this now.
Yeah, I'd agree.
That's an embarrassing stat for England. I'm sorry, that's an embarrassing stat, and it clearly shows whether it's coaching or players.
Scarlets.
Yeah.
Oh, Jesus! I know that would be really bad. But I mean, lessons are not being learned today. Clearly, you know. So why does it keep happening? Is it coaches? Is it players? Is it both? But that's pretty damning for England, actually. Really damning stat.
But yeah, I mean, Francisco, do you have any opinions on this card? I think it's a pretty, for me, I think it's pretty clear cut red.
No, for me, it's a clear red. See, I played rugby for a long time. I stopped twice in my life for personal reasons. And the last time I played, it was 3 or 4 years ago. And my last match, well, it coincided with the start of COVID. So 2 weeks after it's COVID struck and championship was over. But I had, for the first time in my life, I had like a massive shock with my head against a teammate while tackling. And I remember it was a massive tackle. There's a video of it. And I still remember the match, but after it, I couldn't sleep for like 4 nights. It was like at the same time silence, but at the other side it was like I was inside a structure doing all the time because I could feel my heartbeat. So if people still think that it's not a head knock, it's something big, it's something that it happens. Well, it doesn't happen like that. A shock on a head on a rock, okay. Now what Curry did, or Creel, well, Creel is more debatable, but Curry had the whole time of the world to drop height or not go to the tackle because the guy was tackled already. I don't know who's the first tackler. It was not Tuilagi, not Loss. I'm forgetting the name. And that's it. It's a red card. It's a red card in two matches for me. And what is happening in England? I think they're taking that aggression that people confused a bit with the box in 2019 to another level, and it's just plain violence at some point. I like how England played it till 2021, but now forget it. Something is happening, and I think they were lucky against Argentina because Argentina saw the red card and thought, okay, this is going to be easy. We just have to pummel our way in, and it's going to be tries and so on. And it didn't. So that's my opinion.
I said, and going on to the actual game itself, because it's nice to talk about the rugby, not the decisions. No. It looked like Argentina forgot that you don't just find the space straight away, and actually when you're playing 40 men. Actually, the best way to play against it is to just keep playing your system because the gap will, somewhere that flank. There's a reason flankers are often taken off during the yellow card, front row yellow card, and it's because actually, although they're usually your big defensive people, in a weird way, they're probably the easiest gap to hide because they're usually straight out from a ruck and you can actually just bring the defence in. But if you're going straight to width straight away, your defence has time to drift. And, you could just see England just very passively going around. I mean, the big thing for me with England, I was just very disappointed because I think a lot of us thought Argentina, at least made it a conversation, particularly the last time they played England. But as I said, George Ford, he grabbed the game by the scruff of the neck and kicked your threes, and I think that's something that sort of notice thing England have been missing the last year or two.
Since 2003, apparently.
Oh, don't that! I don't know if anyone's
seen
it.
Calm down, Harley. It won't happen. Calm down. It won't happen.
It was the meme they had of Johnny Wilkinson shaking, like 2003 Wilkinson shaking Ford's hand. And admittedly, someone took the piss with it even better and put like the Queen and Captain Tom and
It
Paddington
won't
Bear in
happen.
it
I
just to
can assure
really
you.
make it.
I can assure you, it won't happen.
It was just ridiculous. I mean,
Who
George
did
Ford's
that
a far
meme?
better player.
Who did that meme? Who did the meme with George Ford and Wilkinson? Who was it?
I think Rugby Pass put it out, and then I think
Of course.
someone like Line
Oh,
Break
it was.
Rugby
Yeah, it was Jeremy
did
Pass. Yeah.
did put all the other stuff out.
Sorry, that's a cringe. That is cringy as hell.
Yeah, Wilkinson kicked in the final, and well, Ford kicked in the. But it's the small victories. You have to think like that. It's the
Yeah.
small victories
But
in life.
but I timed, right. I timed on ITV on the opening. So they from the very first program, and they did the opening credits and this, that, and the other, and then they did the opening speech. 36 seconds until they referred back to England winning the 2003 World Cup. 36 seconds. So that's
Let's
what we're
talk about
asking.
England.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's.
I say it does show how bad that game was. That we are struggling to talk about the actual rugby in that one, considering that this was the game that they billed as a highlight top of the night. I mean, I'd say there were two better games the next day. So I mean, unless anyone's got anything else to say on that game or any of the other games we've
Yeah, just one
discussed.
thing. I think Argentina is missing, and people are saying they're going to the semifinals. I don't believe it because one thing, they're missing a fly half that they had like in Nicolas Sanchez or Juan Martin Hernandez or Felipe Contepome, and they don't have at the moment. They have a guy who's a fullback who also plays a center, playing as a fly half. It it doesn't pan out. It doesn't work at this level. It doesn't work like that. They're going to have a pool stage. I'm still rooting for Samoa, but a team that doesn't have fly half and has 8 forwards that just want to drive and drive and drive and don't play with their hands. So look to Fiji. How and even the props, the locks, the loose forwards, all of them can play with hands. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have Kramer and Matera and so on. If they don't play around, you won't do anything without the fly half.
So I'll just butt in quickly and just say that the Chile game against Japan, I just thought was superb. Just from the enjoyment aspect, I absolutely loved that game.
Yeah, I actually want to take a few minutes on this because I haven't got the first name. I've probably butchered it, but the hooker Escobar. My word, everyone was comparing to Dan Sheehan, and do you know what? Fair enough. I think he's more an Escobar, not a Dan Sheehan, because that's his name. But admittedly, Chile came on the wrong side of a 42-12 scoreline, but they were good value for it. I thought Chile were sometimes teams come in as the final, as one of these underdog first time out teams and get absolutely pumped. But I think I've forgotten the name of the Uruguayan coach, but he made the target for the 2019 World Cup to be the protagonist and be the team people want to talk about. And I think Chile have succeeded in that because what a fantastic you could tell their fitness was flagging by the end of the first half and the end of the second half, but just the hits they were putting in. I know Japan aren't the biggest team, but still it was so exciting. It was just nice seeing a team just throw it about and but still have the physicality. I said they went the wrong side of the scoreline, but it was such a good game.
But didn't they? It's Chile that's got the kicker that can just literally kick from anywhere, and he was. I think it was 57 meters, and he put it just to the right of the post, and it didn't even bounce on the pitch. It was like 10 rows back, and you're like,
I think you're referring to the Namibian fly half. I'll just get his name, but because typically, if that part of the world, they're used to booting balls very long distances.
It was one of them. It was one of the tier 2 teams that I was watching.
So they've got Fernandez, who I think it was either him or one of the flankers who called out Squid Rugby and asked him to do a video on him, and now he is firmly drinking the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, but he was hoofing it like just for fun. It's 57 meters, 58 meters. Oh yeah, I'll just put that, and it's going bloody mad. Anyways, it was lovely to see.
Swanipol, I think, is the Namibian fly half. I think he was absolutely hoofing that. It was glorious. It reminded me Not quite to the same level of Ramil Gosens for Russia last World Cup, where he seemed to be booting the ball to piss off the other team more than anything, which is a tactic I rate.
It's nice to be able to talk about tier 2 players, even if you get the team name wrong, if you get the country wrong. But it's nice to be able to see players that we're never going to see them in the European Cup or whatever. Do you know what I mean? It's just nice to see actually there's quite a bit of talent around in tier 2 nations. Gives you a bit of hope that another 4 years of development, and actually we might see a few more. So, but yeah, I thought some of the tier 2 teams, as they are currently called, I really enjoyed watching, particularly that Chile Japan game. Really good, really enjoyable.
It's good fun, really good fun. But you said he would be, didn't you? You said he'd be good.
Yeah, just
Speaking of tier 2 teams, South Africa beat Scotland 18-3 on the scoreboard, and emotionally a lot more.
Oh, the Scottish rugby pod are gonna love that one.
I'll make you popular with the Scottish.
I'm sure they'll love it. I think this is probably the game I was probably most disappointed in the losing side for. I mean, I said I was a bit disappointed. I thought Argentina did more, but I thought, and again, I don't know what it was, because I remember saying on, maybe not this podcast, but I think it was for when we went on to David O'Sullivan's Radio Limerick show, or Limerick Community Radio.
Daniel,
that I had a feeling. I had a feeling about. I just had a feeling that Scotland, they were showing a lot of promise. I mean, talking with a friend of the pod, Hugh, he doesn't buy it at all, but I'm sure he'll voice that opinion on his own stuff. But it just seemed, despite Manny Lebock not being able to kick a ball 2 yards if it's towards a goal, but could do a no look kick to get an absolute wonderful try, only to be bested by something at the end in the next game. I don't know. I just expect, particularly with how the ascendancy Scotland got, particularly towards the end of the first half, and then you got to the second half, and people thought, well, Scotland have been slow starters, so maybe they'll kick on, and it just never happened. I don't know about. I just found it really deflating. I thought the game was pretty.
I think
pretty nothing at the end.
The Springbok defence is just in charge of every game at the minute. When you look at, are they playing expansive, exciting, creative rugby? Not really. They're bullying their way, and they're stopping everybody from playing. And that's what they haven't had that organisation in the past. They've been able to put the big hits in. Yes, they can ruck and all this kind of stuff. But now they've really, really organised this. That's an aggressive defence. And Scotland just didn't have an answer for it.
In the second half. I think in the second half, they really faded away Scotland. I think the first half, Scotland actually stood up to them physically, and they were getting parity in the scrums. In the second half, though, South Africa were like having none of it, and they properly turned the screw. And they just dominated Scotland. And you could just see the way it was going to go. You could see the way the game was going to pan out. Scotland had no answers in that second half, and it's a real shame. But I think the best team won, certainly. But it's got to be a concern with the goal kicking, though. For 10, I know they're winning games, but I still think if they had Pollard, they'd have more control and they'd be getting more points on the board. I like Manny Lebock, but the goal kicking is a big weakness of his game, isn't it? But the best team won, no doubt about that.
And we got to find. So we said before when we did the pre-World Cup stuff about Razzie's cones, when he had the red cone and the white cone. He's progressed beyond cones now to a full traffic light system. So he sits up in the top there, and he's got a full traffic light system as to what happens and where it goes and all that kind of stuff. I mean, at some point, he's just got to let the players play. Do you know what I mean? It's so you said Harley, red is for goal.
That's basically the only one we saw.
Yeah, but I'm willing to bet that I saw at least 2 other lights that were up there. So
well, one was just to say Lebock, no, give it to Faf.
and the other was saying, Faf, I love your hair. So
just to talk about the carrying game, because you just want to say the Box did actually carry 610 meters, which is on average, they're carrying a lot more, and a lot of it is in the wider channels. They are going wide, but they know that if they can keep going up through the middle, why waste energy? Yeah, but I just want to put out is the Box do actually have a little bit of a passing game, and partly is because of LeBoc and his kicking is probably a more attacking kicker than it's more for crossfield kicks than it is aerial bombs and kick and regather. Just want to say, Francisco, do you have a? As someone who doesn't like winding up the Scottish, do you have any thoughts on the game?
That the statement that Harley said, I don't condone it. Please don't come to my house. I didn't but I think you are all what you said is on point. I think South Africa is doing a marvelous job of striking down the other team's attacking exit. Finn was completely overplayed from the first to the last minute, and it's risky the strategy because Faf and Creel sometimes, or Faf and Colisi, Faf and Detroit, they jump from the line and just go in a burst of a sprint to try to block it. When it's well done, it's incredible. But if you have a fly half or a center that understands how they can manipulate that, like France, it can get hard. But against France, they won't do this. They're going to do other strategy if they go again against the Leblanc. And that's, I think, what Coley said about Liebok, for me, it's enough. For years, I heard people saying that about Belden Barrett, which is one of my favorite players of all time. That he doesn't kick well to the poles. I won't say about cursing here, but it's like, I don't care about the poles. Just score tries, and that's it. At some games, it's going to be by 2-3 points margin, but teams that rely on pole kicking too many times lose. And I remember how Wales, and sorry, people, guys, in the last World Cup relied on pole kicking. You were very close to the final, but in the end, not even a bronze medal. It's how the sport is played. I think when you go for the try, like the Springboks against England was what is for me a show: pole kicking and tries. A team if to realize just pole kicking, it will be cooked in no time. And I think that was the secret for Wales against Fiji last night. It was incredible. I wrote on Twitter saying, why is Wales playing like Fiji of 2019? Because you went completely berserk, completely crazy, playing all around, kicking, flanker kicking, prop doing pass behind the back, everything. It was marvelous to see Wales playing like that, because for a long time I have not seen you doing this.
Well, let's move on to the Wales Fiji game then. So Francisco's very kindly reminded us that we've never won anything. Cheers for that, buddy. But
Jamie, always close.
What did you make of last night's game, Jay?
Well, look, there's two words, isn't it? Job done. I mean, honestly, it was, for the neutrals, I'm sure Wales v Fiji is a brilliant game to watch. If you've got no vested interest in any of these teams, so particularly Wales, I think it's great. But for us Welsh, it's an endurance test, isn't it? It was the one game I was really nervous about in this pool. And by the end of it, I needed to lie down because I was just shot to bits. I was shot to bits. I mean, going back to what Francisco was saying, I mean, one of the disappointing things for me with Wales is we played some good stuff, but we played some really dumb, silly stuff as well. And I could not believe how loose we were playing, particularly in that first half. It was like 2007 all over again. I'm all for a bit of attack and enterprise, but why are we trying to run it from our own 22? It's just absolutely crazy. I just felt we played with, at times, reckless abandon, and we got off to a really good start. We're 8-0 up, Will Rowlands wins that. Brilliant turnover, damn bigger kicks there. We scored a really good try, Josh Adams. Then I was particularly disappointed in the defence because I did think Fiji, they took their tries well, but I thought there was two really soft tries, particularly defensively. And, Nick Tompkins, I know he's a bit of a Marmite player, but he had a really shaky start to begin with, but he grew into the game as it went on and he ended up being really, really good. and you see players missing tackles and you're thinking, oh, God, it's 2007 all over again. I mean, when it goes red, the clock is red, the first half, you just need them to kick it out. Why the fuck were we trying to run it from our 22? It was just absolute madness. And that clip of Bigger now gone viral, get the fucking ball off the puck. That's exactly why I shouted at my TV. I mean, I just couldn't understand why you were playing so loose like that. It was absolutely crazy.
So I'll tell you why. And so I went back today and I had the pause button and the fast forward and look back and all of this kind of stuff. So at that point of the game, so yeah, we'd been under pressure and the automatic, thought is just boot it out. We had a 4-on-1. Yeah. That's why they started running it. And the reason they cocked it up was because so Bigger was stood behind waiting for the kick. Yeah. So it comes off Liam Williams and Bigger is stood behind waiting for the one and he was going to hoof it off the pitch. Yeah. So Liam Williams cocks up the original one, but then looks around and actually he's got a 4-1 or a 5-2, depends where you put, if you cast Bigger and in there and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So that's what he's looking at. And the reason it got cocked up was that actually the passing wasn't very good. And people were actually waiting for the kick from Bigger. So I totally get why we're going to run it from there. Because you've got the fastest guy in the World Cup stood out on the wing. And the guy that's marking him has got one person in between him and the guy with the ball. Yeah. So you've got a 4-on-1, 5-on-2 kind of situation. What we did was we cocked up the pass, and that's why we ended up not running from there and putting ourselves under pressure. So
I still would have kicked it out. I'm sorry, if the clock's dead, I still would have kicked it out. Just
considering how hard we had to work for that. Sorry,
but
that ball should have gone out as far as I'm concerned. We needed to regather, regroup. We were under pressure. That ball just needed to get off the park. So I understand we're saying over, but we just needed to get it off.
Yeah, but that's the difference between us at the minute and a really, really good side. A really, really good side would have capitalised on that and gone end to end. Yeah, and it happened twice. There were two opportunities. There was one where it was like a 4-1, and there was another where it was just a straight 3-on-1. Yeah, and we cocked it up because the players just aren't waiting for the pass. Yeah, and that's the difference between where we are and where we need to be. If we're going to be genuine world beaters, we need to be ready for 80 minutes. And if it's behind our goal line, we should be ready to run that. If it's a 3-on-1 and we're behind our own goal line,
okay,
we should be able to take it.
I'm going to have to disagree with you, mate, because you don't want to be running it out from your own 22 against Fiji. You just don't, because you're playing into their hands. And if you balls it up, you give them the attacking opportunity. That ball just needed to go off the park. I thought Wales were going to play a more structured game. I thought we'd kick the ball a lot more. And we talked about in last week's pod, what did we say? Wales need to be calm. They need to be structured. They need to go for the set piece. And we were just chucking the ball about willy-nilly. I just thought we were really reckless and loose. And I thought, this is playing into Fiji's hands now. And in the second half, we were a lot better. I mean, what a defensive effort, though. 253 tackles in total. That got upgraded today. Will Rowlands made 27 of them on his own and didn't miss any. And now it's a huge defensive effort. I know we missed a lot of tackles as well, but that was absolutely draining. And it was hot, and we just needed to get our job done. And look, Wales rolled their luck in that game, right? We're going to talk about the referee now. I'm sure we are. It's been debated to death on X and Twitter. Everyone has had their say about it. Literally everyone. Even bloody DIY SOS host Nick Coles has perked up, that well-renowned rugby expert Nick Knowles. He's been throwing his weight around, hasn't he? But let's look at the context of this result, right? Because we'll talk about more in depth about the game later on. Pretty much everybody was tipping Fiji to win this game. They came into this game as favourites. Now, I know the bookies had Wales down as favourites. I didn't agree with that, because I think if you look at the rankings, if you look at recent form, Fiji were the favourites going into this game. Wales were under a lot of pressure. We knew Wales had to win this game. This was must win. Because if they had lost this game, there's no way we would have got out the pool. I don't believe we would have, right? And I said that I'll take any game at all. Sorry, any scrappy game. If it was a scrappy game, if it was 3-0, I would take it. We had to win this game. Not only did we win it, we got a bonus point win. We got a bonus point win. Now, if you said to any Welsh fan before the game, would you take a bonus point win against Fiji? You would have bit their hands off, wouldn't we? So it was a massive result for Wales. It was scary. Yes, we rode our luck at times. We should have been yellow carded, all the infringements on the red zone. We know that. We'll talk about it later. But overall, I still think Wales were a better team. Why? Because we were clinical. And I think now it's the difference between us and Fiji. Yes, Fiji scored some great tries. They looked threatening. They looked really powerful. But they also missed a few. They knocked the ball on over the line twice. They were starting to get white line fever. Whereas I think when we was in their red zone, we were much more clinical. And that's the difference. So when people get angry about the ref, actually, they want to get angry with Fiji as well because they blew a lot of opportunities. And Madrada at the end, I mean, oh, my goodness. I of all the players who you thought would take that ball and run it in, you never would have thought Madrada would be the one to drop it. Now, I don't think the pass was good, mind. And I actually think that was the wrong pass. I would have gone for the inside ball because the guy was coming straight through and gone under the post. And he had a bit of an awkward bounce. But you would have expected Madrada to take that ball, wouldn't you? And there's no guarantees either that Fiji would have won that because they still had to take the conversion. If Madrada does score and he's in the corner, their goal kicking was a weakness, wasn't it? So there was no guarantee Fiji were going to win, even if Madrada went in the corner. But when you drop the ball, the world just lifted off our shoulders. But make no mistake, it was a massive win for Wales. This is what we needed. This was exactly what was needed. And we're now in a good position. For me, we've one step ahead, 1 foot in the quarterfinals, and we're looking good to get out the pools. I know there's still games to go, but this result was massive, and this was exactly what we needed. So relief, the job is done.
Harley, you were gonna jump in.
I just wanted to back Jamie's point up with my with the stats. So I'm a big fan of the 22 conversions. So Wales had 5 entries, and we averaged 5.2. Fiji had 12 and they averaged 2.1. I mean, you can't blame all of that on the thing we'll probably go on to, which I don't want to spend too long on, but you can't blame all that on just poor Welsh discipline killing the ball because there was a double movement. There were a couple of balls over the line. There were some things where Fiji stopped doing what they were doing well and went for something else. Francis, I was going to say, pass on, see if we get the neutral's point of view from Francisco.
Yeah.
Well, I loved the match. I was seated, but more than 70 minutes. The last 10 minutes, I was just like shouting on my feet. I have to be honest. I was rooting for Fiji because, well,
everyone was. If you wasn't Welsh, you were supporting Fiji, and that's what makes us the bad guys. The fact that we won, everyone now hates us because we did to beat Fiji, the team everyone loved.
I have a way with life is like, if you won, you deserve it to win. And last night, that last pass, I'm going to be honest, they tried to put on Radradra because he was like far away with no one in front of him, because they were afraid to play that close because of the Welsh tackling. And I think maybe Tuisova and Leah thought if they went go to the ground, someone was going to do a jackal and catch the ball, because it was a risky move. The problem with them was that pass, it was just a desperate attempt. He just shrugged off a ball, and rather I couldn't do better. I thought he was going to kick it, like a small kick, and then grab it and score a wonderful try, but it wasn't meant to be. And for me, well, Jamie, I know you were saying that you would kick the ball in the first half and so on, but the way you played is the way that you can surprise everyone, because I know people who are working with teams in the World Cup, and by the end of the match, I talked with them by WhatsApp because I couldn't go to sleep at that time. Normally, I go to at Sundays at 10 p.m. I go to bed, and I couldn't because it was impossible. I was completely over the moon with everything, and they were saying to us, "Okay, Wales just ripped the book apart, and now we don't know if they're going to play against us in this way, in that manner, or a mix or whatever." And that unpredictability, aspect and can be something that push you forward the quarterfinals to the semis because it brings some fear to your opponents. If they know how you play, that is going to kick and kick. Because I know what Bigger wanted, but let's be fair, Bigger didn't have that awesome of a match. It was a good match.
Man of the match. He was given man of the match. He was.
But for
Which
me,
I don't agree with, but he was.
But for me, it was he wasn't, and I get why
No.
they gave him the man of the match. I understand it, but he wasn't. And if Fiji won that match, I'm sure everyone would pile on Bigger at the end, because at some point you have to be bold, and that's how winning teams go. It's being bold, and or you are completely a menace in the physicality front, like the All Blacks were in 2015 and the Springboks in 2019. But the Springboks in 19 were a bit unpredictable in the way they play because they had Colby Mapimpi playing completely ludicrous rugby. Or if you play in this match, if you play like Wales of the last 3 years against this Fiji, you will have lost by like 10 points yesterday, because kicking to these fellas and waiting them to do a mistake is just waiting for a disaster. And last night you just played all over the park, and you could see in the Fijians and in Fiji players' faces that something was not as they trained, or it was unexpected. Seeing North playing with the ball, running for Roland, everyone. It was marvelous seeing Wales play like that. I know it takes your cardiac beat to a degree that you don't want it, but that's lovely rugby. That's all we want.
So let's talk about the elephant in the room, because and I don't know whether this is because most of the press is controlled by England, and England don't like the fact that Fiji lost to Wales but beat them. But there's an awful. I saw a couple of bits of in the Irish press as well. But to be fair, the Irish press said they didn't watch that game as a neutral. They watched that game as a Fiji fan. And, we do the same. If Fiji were playing against Ireland, we'd be cheering for Fiji. So they were honest about, they were on Fiji's side. So all this fuss about the referee and decisions and this, that, and the other, was the ref that bad? Or, was the ref that bad? Was the TMO that bad? Or is it just the media kicking up shit because they can? Well, what did you make of it, Francisco?
I don't like to talk about referees because, well, I had when I played, I sometimes lost my temper with them, and I quickly learned that the worst way to go. It's not rugby or rugby values; it's sport values. Just don't discuss with him in the pitch after the match. You can have a healthy debate about why you did this and how explain me how I can get better and so on. Last night, I know people feel aggravated, and I think there's some decision making that wasn't good or cool. But I try to stay away from it. I know that the yellow card from Fiji drives people nuts, but it is a yellow card inside the 22. What was the problem was that Wales should have received yellow card before. But I think talking about making this the highlight point of the match is like spitting on it and saying, okay, it wasn't a good match. It was decided by a referee. And if you look to the Fijians, I talked with a lot of them, and they were quite sad with the ref, but they're saying it was an incredible game, and we could have won if we didn't do so many mistakes in decision making. Because sometimes we did pick and go for like an eternity and just didn't come up to nothing, and we shouldn't have done it. So my advice for people for this next week is leave the ref commenting. It's not, you can do some criticism, but don't be like don't go for slurring and say and just focus on it. And I come from a sports culture that we always are hating referees. I cannot say to you how Portugal loses by 20 points in a rugby match, and the referee is always the thief in the night. It was him. It was all him. So my advice to people will be let it go. Just let it go. Like Elsa in Frozen. Let it go. Let it go.
Harley, what did you make of it, mate? Is it just the press being English?
I just think it's always this. It's something that seems to always happen with Wales. Wales can never be good. Like it happened the same in 2019 when we were Grand Slam champions. It happened in 2021 because yes, we got the rub of the green with the ref, but you could probably think. I reckon between us all, we can all think of games where our team has gotten the rub of the green, and as many games where we haven't. That's just how it goes. The big comment that they always say is, well, Fiji only gave away 9 penalties. How come they got a yellow card? And it's like, well, because you've got to look at the actual offences, not just the number. That yellow card was because they pulled down a mole that was motoring, and some refs would have given that a penalty try as well.
Yeah,
cynical. Certain try. They stopped a certain try. They pulled it down. That's a yellow card.
Other refs would be harsher on how both sides were entering the breakdown on their own ball.
Yeah.
It's refs can only look at one or two things, and TMO can only look at a set number of things. So they can't, unless it's foul play, they can't have a look at it. You could make arguments if you really wanted to, but at the end of the day, if there's no point Wales fans looking at what the ref missed because we won. I said I don't see, with the exception of one or two notable personalities. I'm just not going to bring the names up because I just don't want them to have the airtime. It all seems to be non-Fijians who are complaining about it more than any Fijians I've seen.
Yeah,
true.
Most Fijian, because arguably, if we've given away 17 penalties, that many on the goal line, if they had their first choice kicker months, they would have 3-6-9'd us into oblivion. If they kept hold of the ball, thing. But then, if Matt Carley hadn't called that for the very first scrum, that if he'd called that Liam Williams drop as backwards, which is as equally legitimate thing because it did go backwards, but you can also see why it's a knock on because he's dropped the ball, and frankly, that for me is you can call these all you like. One thing I thought Fiji did quite stupid was when Dylan Lewis got put onto a scrum penalty warning, they went for a tap and go.
Yeah.
Your scrum is that. Again, Jamie, I don't know how you feel about Dongi at the moment because he was absolutely shit for the Dragons, and now he's actually.
No, he wasn't. No, that's not fair. No, he wasn't
terrible.
He was not. Wrong, Carly. He was good. He was okay. He was a good player. The only reason we let him go was because of the budget. We had to let him go. He was on big wages. He wasn't shit at all.
Yeah, but it was one of those. It was one of those things that when I saw that Kurundua wasn't on the bench, I thought, it might help us out with the scrum, and yeah, that was fucking. Jeez, I don't know how Dylan Lewis can hold it for 70 minutes against South Africa, and then go marching backwards the next game is ridiculous. But that's just my frustrations as a Cardiff fan there. Again, I don't really want to talk about ref. The ref did what the ref. Well, it's Matt Carley. So anyone who thinks Matt Carley, who was famous for basically reversing penalties and marching damn bigger backwards at every opportunity he thinks he can, is biased towards Wales is ridiculous. But I saw one comment, but I said one of these personalities I saw talk about the refs was talking about the Welshman Andrew Brace, and you're just like. You've clearly never watched Andrew Brace referee if you're calling him a Welshman. Yes, he grew up in Cardiff, and by the way he referees, it looks like he hated every fucking minute of it. So sure. I just think it's. I know I'm guilty of calling refs biased sometimes, but I'm fed up of it. I don't think there's anything in it at all, really. Francisco, you about to make a point?
Just to add something that I think most tier one fans and journalists and so on don't recognize or don't understand. There's a lot of prejudice from refs of top refs with T2 sides, but it's not conscient. It's conscious prejudice, and I explain to you why. Because they don't ref our games. They just don't. for the last 2 years, we had Wayne Barnes refereeing a Georgia-Romania or Georgia-Spain game. It was like something like that. I think Luke Pierce came once too in the last 4 years, but mostly we don't have them coming on normally and understand how we play, our doubts, how even the English or the words or keywords. Because I played for a long time, as I explained, and I remember I knew some referees that had ways to saying to players to don't do that or do that because it changes, and we don't have that. And I work for Rugby Europe, and we have a lot of good referees coming out from the system. And you have the Georgian referee came out from Rugby Europe system, and Luke Pierce came out from it, and so on. But we don't have that. It's not pleasure, that luxury of having refs off the top side coming down. If they came down, I can I can tell you that things will be a bit different, and we need that. And in the future, if there were two things that could change in World Rugby, will be the World Cup 24 teams and refs coming down to the Rugby Europe Championship and to the Americas Rugby Championship and to the Pacific Nations Championship, because we need that. And refs need to understand our problems and our doubts and so on too. So it will make the product even better.
I think that's a really good point, that if World Rugby is going to commit to bringing some of the tier 2 sides up to, tier 1.5, and eventually we'll get rid of tier 1 and tier 2, and it'll just be, you are what you are. But there's got to be, I think what this World Cup will show is that there's got to be a fairer spreading of resources amongst everybody. So yeah, I think it's a really good point, Francisco, that it's not just playing against, England, Wales, Scotland, or whatever. It's being refed by them. It's being in that environment. It's always being coached by them. So yeah, I think it's a really good point. The one point I would make on the ref, well, more the TMO more than the ref. Like I said, the ref can only give a decision on what he sees. The whole point of the TMO is to pick out the bits that the ref has missed. So a lot of people making a thing of Will Rowland's high tackle, where he basically, he does. It is a high tackle. I've been through that game. Like I say, it took me 3 hours to go through that game today, and a lot of it was on fast forward and just picking out the small bits. That's the only bit that I can find where the TMO probably should have come in and intervened and said, this is what's what. I think there was a lot of, when Fiji were under pressure, the tackle technique just went straight out the window, and they went back to the way it used to be done, which was there's no arms and we're coming in with the shoulder. And Liam Williams got absolutely battered about 3 or 4 times. They just did not care how they were hitting Liam Williams. They were just hitting him, and he kept getting up. So there's a call for that, but then there's a call either way. But the only bit I could find that probably should have been reviewed, and I wouldn't be surprised if it does get cited, is Will Rowland's high tackle, and I think it was on their prop, which was his shoulder into. He's got a big bushy beard, so you can't really see where he goes into, but it looks like it's going into his chin. It might have missed his chin and gone into his chest, but I think that's not having a big bushy beard, as much as we all love a big bushy beard. It didn't do him any favors because it wasn't clear where Will Rowland's shoulder hit, but it definitely needed reviewing at the time. So yeah, other than that, the rest.
Can I just say, what a shame that the refereeing and the officiating has been completely overshadowed, because this was a fantastic game of rugby. It was brilliant, and it's been completely ruined and overshadowed by dickheads on Twitter coming out with bollocks about conspiracies, bias against tier 2, all this stuff. It's just utter nonsense. I'm sorry. It's just a real shame. And I'm worried that this World Cup is going to be ruined by people just constantly debating, screenshotting, gifting, slow motion replays of incidents. It's so fucking boring. Squid Rugby is right. And Will Owen was on social media today. If you just keep talking about refereeing incidents, it's just boring. It sucks the fun out of the game. I know it's important and we should hold officials to account, But can we please just not make this overshadow what could be a really fantastic rugby tournament? That's all I'm saying.
Well, let's move on then to what did Fiji do well in that game. Let's look at Fiji first, then we'll look at Wales. Where did it go right for them? Where did it go wrong for them? And what do they take out of that game going forward? So, Harley, you kick us off. What did they do well? What did they not do well?
I think starting off, I mean, the one thing you can never, I think Wales managed to shut down their offloading game quite well, but what we couldn't shut down was just the sheer physicality that 1 to 15 can run, and they can all run, they can all handle, and they're all a threat. So you've got to pretty much double tackle everywhere, and they were making lots and lots of ground, and that was excellent. The thing that I think Fiji were doing really well, not so much in this game, but I mean, particularly the France game. Yes, they lost to the sort of France seconds team, but one tactic, which is what I thought they'd use far more against Wales, was they were smashing up through the middle a lot more. And when they did do that against Wales, we couldn't handle it. And then they'd smash the middle, and then you'd have nice Selev, who, as always, I apologise for poor pronunciation. I do try to get it nailed each time. And they'd come on a run. I think Semi Radradra probably had one of his. He still played very well, and actually was one of the top people for meters carried on and clean break and defenders beaten. But I think he had a poor game for his standards, so it wasn't his best. I think he did look a little bit wobbly, particularly in defence. I think if they'd kept up with that, they would have put a lot more points on Wales. Which leads me on to the second thing. I think their patience is something they need to learn. I think patience is one of the probably the most important characteristics of a test side. So I already mentioned with the scrum penalties, they were getting marched. You know, someone did ask me why the one scrum wasn't a penalty try, and I said, why Matt Carley blew up before and it's basically they stood up, and you can't help that. But I do think if they'd gone another one, that would have been a penalty. That would have been under the sticks. Dylan Lewis off a 10, and then you're looking at a completely different game. And, as Jamie said, he thought in that last play they took the wrong option. They should have been trying to get under the posts. And actually that was off. There was actually another, if they'd gone out one instead of the big looping pass, there was a huge gap between two defenders. That's where I think Fiji need to work on is just that sort of patience to get through, because they have all the ability to be a top tier side. It's the cliche of the top 2 inches, I think, is where Fiji and a player like Caleb Muntz is showing he has that already. What they need are a couple more players who have it, and then the other one is, as I alluded to, goal kicking. They kick 3 conversions, but they had 3-4 shots a goal they missed. I know Dan Bigger missed a couple as well, but he's usually reliable that. And I feel like because they were missing those kicks, when they were just sort of saying, right, we're not getting anywhere here if we kick the points and then just go back, because Fiji were getting from their end to our end of the pitch in no time at all. It took very little effort before they could either break Wales' line just by getting through the first tackle and moving on, being ball, because Wales just, as much as Wales tried to slow it down legally and illegally, they still kept going. So that for me is where Fiji are. They've got so much that's almost there, but I think it is that last 2-3% that would make them a serious contender to be everyone, the team that everyone wants them to be if they're not playing your team.
Yeah, I think there was I think I counted 5 opportunities where they had overlaps, where Fiji had overlaps and serious overlaps, 3-1s, what have you, and the pass goes to 4, the pass goes behind. So yeah, and that just comes, like you say, from the panic, and that not being able to keep. I think Radradra, as good a player as he is, sees the ball coming, sees the line in front of him, and goes, "This is it. I'm a hero." Before he's caught the ball, sort of a thing. So that cool head might actually do them a power good. Well, what about yourself, Jamie? What did you think about where it went right and where it went wrong for Fiji?
Yeah, pretty much agree with everything Ali said. I think in the first half, they were winning the collisions. So physically, they were getting on top. I mean, poor old Tompkins was getting bumped off left, right and centre. Like you said, Liam Williams. It was a very physical, bruising encounter. And they're big guys, these are very big men and they're very hard to stop. Where did it go right? I think with ball in hand, when the game is loose, this is why I know what you and Francisco are saying, but I still wanted us to play with a bit more structure because if we kept it tighter, I think it would have been a lot closer. But because we were chucking the ball about, Fiji love that because the problem is when you mess up and the ball is open there, they will attack and they will exploit. They love that, Fiji. They don't like structure. They like chaos. So when we start playing into their hands, they love it. And I felt that we did play into their hands, particularly in the first half. And they're so dangerous with ball in hand. They're going to score tries. And the other thing I think about this Fiji team, there's a lot of heart and character, isn't it? Because let's be honest, when Wales were 32-14 up, did you think that should be it? Or you're just going to be, or you're going to be wise after the event and go, wow, no, I always knew they'd come back because I generally thought the job was done when they were 32-14 up. Now, one thing we know about this Fiji team, they never give up, and if anything, they just kept coming and coming at us. I mean, it didn't help the Wales were making dull errors. The scrum just went to shit. I was really I got to say it, Ali Soccer, I was really disappointed in replacement props. Komacheski was thick. That penalty, really dull. Dylan Lewis is Dylan Lewis. Sorry. I want Henry Thomas involved for the next few games, though. I want to see what he could do. Liam Williams, that's all he had to do was put the ball out. What'd he do? Fucking kicks it dead. It's just errors like that. And when you make errors, when you panic, Fiji sniff. They sniff blood, and they're onto you and like that. But no, look, they're a very, very good team, Fiji. In terms of what went wrong for them, as I said earlier, I don't think they were clinical enough for the key moments. I do think if they'd had Caleb Muntz, they probably would have won because goal kicking was a big weakness for them. And like I said, if Adrada did score that try, there was no guarantees they were going to get a conversion because they just didn't have a goal kicker on the field. But they'll always keep fighting, Fiji. They got brilliant spirit and they come away with 2 match points. I know they would have wanted to win, but they have come away with 2 match points. They're still very much in this pool. They could still reach the quarterfinals. I think they are very capable of beating Australia, but this Sunday now is do or die for them. They've got to win against Australia for me or they don't go through. And I do wonder, can they pick themselves up now from this heartbreak? Because they're going to be feeling pretty down about it. Yes, they're going to be happy with certain aspects. They're going to be happy that they pushed Wales. But I think they will look back and think this was a missed opportunity. And with Wales now, we got Portugal, so we can afford to make change. No disrespect to Portugal, of course, but we can make changes. We can have a little bit of breathing space. This is a game that Wales are expected to win. Now, Fiji don't have that luxury. They got to go straight back on the horse and they got to face Australia. And the question is now, can they get back up again and give everything against Australia? Because now they have to, it's do or die. So that's a massive game on Sunday. But I do enjoy watching this Fiji team. I think they're fantastic. But when it's against Wales, it's not good for the heart. It really isn't. I hate Wales v Fiji games. And I do not want them ever again in a Rugby World Cup because I'm sick of playing these guys. And I'm sick of my nerves just going through the roof. It's horrible. I hate it.
So I will say, I'll read you out the message I sent to our WhatsApp chat when Elliot D went over. And I said, we've lost games from here before, so I'm going to give it another 5 minutes before I relax. So
I didn't see that.
Yeah. So it's growing up in the 80s and 90s. You get used to the fact that the game ain't over for a very, very long time, no matter how far ahead you are. So let's think about Wales then. So Francisco, were we good or were we lucky? Was it a decent Welsh performance, and is there more to come?
Well, if you know the special one, Jose Mourinho, he said that teams that want to win are always lucky because they build their own luck, and I think Wales built their own. I agree with what everyone said here that Fiji was the favorites for this match. We cannot lie with it because
yes.
the momentum, everything was on their side. It was not in the Welsh side. And how Wales came out of a match that, well, I never seen Fiji play like this for 80 minutes because the physicality, the conditioning was top level. and I don't remember the 2007 match, so sorry if I'm doing something that murdering it, but this game was rock on perfect in spectacle. I think Wales did well most of the things in the match. I think what crumbled down in the second half was a set piece. The line out in the scrums start not functioning, and screws Wales a bit over. Against Georgia, if this happens, I think you're going to have a bad time because the Georgians really know how to make a scrum and a line out and a mole feel like pain. But Bowl, I was kind of impressed with Wales, how Beard and Rollins completely disintegrated the Fijian mole was top notch. I think Gatland worked it well. So not preparing only for Fiji but for Georgia as also. But I could say that I really like seeing Wales play. It was lucky sometimes, yeah, but a team that wants to win is lucky. Look, the All Blacks against France, when they start not playing rugby, luck completely went to the other side. And every time France kicked the ball, it went how they wanted. It bounced in ways that it's not physically possible. But when a team wants luck, they go after it, and I think Wales did it and did it well.
And I think with the best will in the world, Rodrange is a fullback, and like you said earlier, James Tompkins is a very Marmite kind of a player, but he created space for George North to run into left, right, and centre, and to the point where he took an absolute battering every time. Jesus Christ! And he had like 2 or 3 players on him, but every time he did that, George North appears on his shoulder and just runs the ball. And this is kind of what we said before. George North is lovely running at space, and he ran at space really, really well. But he pops up in the right places and he hits a line. But then there were three occasions where he actually had to take the man on, and he couldn't take the man on. He couldn't find the space himself. He couldn't go around the player. So I think there's a lot of stuff that we can go back through that game and go, actually, we can do stuff better. Like I say, running the ball out from our own line. If that had been in the 22 and we screw it up, then there's absolute hell to play, because that's a definite try. And for me, it doesn't matter where you are on a pitch. You should be able to run a 2-on-1, a 3-on-1, or whatever. You should be able to do that quite comfortably at professional level. There was another incident in the second half. So it came off it was a Fiji line out, and somehow it came back to us, and we've got the same thing. We've got a 5-on-2, right? And that inside player, so we've got the winger, and then you've got Naya Clevu on the inside player. Naya Clevu follows the ball all the way across. The ball gets to Louis Rees-Zammit on the wing. He gets absolutely destroyed by the winger. Naya Clevu's just defended 4 players without even touching the ball, and we've made 10 meters. And all it takes is somebody to go straight at him and give a pass, commit the man. You've got a 4-on-1 with 50 meters to go. And I think that's the difference, like I say, between where we could be and where we are. We could have put another 3 or 4 tries on top of what we did, just by simple handling. And don't get me wrong, Fiji should have put 5 on us. There were 5 clear opportunities that Fiji nutsed up. That's not including the 3 that went over the line. 5 opportunities where they had clear overlaps and didn't use them. So I think there's more to come from that side. Defensively, I thought forwards were immense defensively, but Fiji targeted George North and they had meters out of George North every single time. George North is great when they're running straight at him. The moment they went to either arm, it caused issues, and they were taking 25, 30 meters out of him every time. And as much as we don't want to talk about it, that's the level that we're at. if we need somebody in at 13 that can actually close down a backline. And Fiji didn't actually do that well because they move it beyond George North, but then they kind of, as soon as they were in the 22, if they do something, the pass would go down or whatever, yeah. And we need to be in a position where we can stop that break. And as good as George North is going forward, defensively, that's our weakness. And Australia would have seen that. Georgia will have seen that, and they'll go, right, how do we move the ball to 13? If George North is going to be in there, how do we move the ball to 13? We saw that on the pitch because we kept putting Wainwright there, we kept putting Falatau there, we kept putting Reffel there when he came on. Yeah, we knew that that's where our weakness, and we had to take a player out from around the ruck and move it into the 13 channels to give support to George North. So, you know, if we're going to move forward and we're going to go deep, then that's an it. Either George North needs to learn how to defend as a 13, or we need to put somebody else. And I don't think we have a better player there, I'll be honest. Yeah. I don't think we have a better 13 at the World Cup at the minute. And so George North needs to pull his finger out and somebody needs to tell him this is how you defend. Because at the minute, that's our big weakness. I thought everywhere else where we've been weak in the past, lineouts, I thought we actually nailed lineouts. It was nothing like the England warm-up games. I thought scrums were great until we made replacements. So, you know, there wasn't an area in the game where we were getting absolutely tonked, but they took yards out of George North, left, right, and centre. And if we don't do something about it, that's where people are going to run. And when you come up against South Africa and New Zealand and France, yeah, forget about Australia. Australia will run there because they got some massive 13s. We're gonna get absolutely tonked.
Do you know what I want to see now? I want to see George North get play of the match just to piss you off. Because I really would when then. If he had a man of the match, a brilliant display, you will know what to do on this podcast then. Well, you'd have to say he was good.
No, it's, you know, I've said, you know, where he's good is in attack. Yeah. Because Tompkins was committing that inside defender and George North was going, you know, you had Naya Klebu kept drifting off George North because you had whichever winger was looping around behind him. Yeah, on George North's try, he's watching Dan Bigger coming behind him because he's expecting a pop out the back, and George North goes, "Thank you very much." Yeah, and
what I would say though, what I would say about George North, I do think he's lost a bit of pace. So when people like yourself and you've said put him back on the wing, well, you can't because he's too slow now. And not only that, who are you going to drop? Who are you going to drop on the wing to accommodate him? I do think there's a couple of line breaks where I thought he looked a little bit leggy. You know, I think he is, you know, he's still relatively young, but he's getting on a bit, if you see what I mean in rugby terms. So, yeah.
And I agree with you, Jake. And that's why I say you can't put him back out on the wing because you compare him in pace to what we've got there at the minute, and it's no contest. No. And he needs to learn how to defend at 13. And that's not an easy process. It's not a let me show you a video and this is how you defend at 13. It takes a lot of
It's a difficult position. Yeah. It's a very difficult position.
And he's not even playing there. He doesn't play there week on week for the Ospreys. So I don't think we're being fair to him. He needs much, much more game time at 13 against sides who are going to run at him to build his confidence about how to defend at 13. So, yeah, I do hope he has a cracking game. And, you know, there's no doubt about him going forward. You know, I think him and Tompkins actually work really, really well going forward.
That's the partnership now, I think, for this World Cup. That's the first choice. It looks like anyway, doesn't it?
But defensively, it's got issues. Right, let's move on rapidly before the sun starts coming up again. Let's talk Portugal. Let's have a chat about what's coming rather than what's been. So Portugal's not a side that we know much about, Francisco. It's not a side that we know many of the names of or what kind of rugby they play. So give us the full rundown about what we can expect and how many tries Portugal are going to put on us.
Well, We're laughing. Well, Portugal is, if I could define in one word, when I talk with Patrice Lagisquet, the Portugal head coach, so former player for France, so people know, and he was assistant coach to Philippe Saint-André in the 2015 World Cup, so not good memories for him from the World Cup scene. But he said Portugal is pride, but I would opt for another word. I would say unpredictable. We are an unpredictable team that, well, it takes things to another level. We play a bit like Super Rugby. We like to take the inside our 22, we start running with it, and if things pan out, well, we go from one side almost to the other. We done this for the last 4 years and brought us close to defeating Japan and Italy, failing just by seconds or because our discipline is a problem. And if last night we thought that Wales had a bad discipline records, well, Portugal can be worse. Like when I say worse, like 17 penalties, and that's incredible for a side that in the last 4 years won most of the games with doing an average of 15 penalties a match. So if Portugal did like nine, I would say they'll be not in the same level as Georgia, but very close for it. And I think everyone is expecting a win or a big win from Wales, but if the Welsh team doesn't take this match serious, they're gonna have a bad time because normally we like to be the underdogs and play around and start to frustrate the other side. We tackle and defend quite well. Problem is the set piece. The scrum is better than 4 years ago. No doubt about it. We boss around Romania and Spain, which is something. And sometimes we can equalize against Georgia, but the line out I'll say 40% of our balls go skewered, so Wales can take from it and pile on. I think the best way for Portugal to do any damage in Saturday is we have to be we have to surprise. At the same time, we have to wait for and have patience. We like to do things. We like to hush things, go for speed, for pace, for intensity, but we forget sometimes speed and pace needs good good supporting for the attack, and when there's no support, well, it's a turnover for the other side. So these are the main big points for Portugal, and if we have the whole team playing, so at the moment, Samuel Marsh, which is for me one of the most important nuclear players for Portugal, if everyone is with the fine, clean bill, I think it's going to be a match. I think it's going to be a very good match.
So, what kind of difference is it going to make then to sitting out the first weekend, watching Wales have an absolute battering against Fiji, and then sitting there? Is it more frustrating, do you think, to sit there and watch that first week? Would they rather be involved, or does it give them kind of like, a chance to sit back, see what's happening, maybe do a bit more planning, and then come in fresh? It's going to be a very much changed Welsh side because most of them are still going to be nursing bruises. So is that a better thing for Portugal, do you think?
It can work in two directions. If you play in the first week like Wales and Fiji and Georgia and Australia played, you can surprise the other side because no one knows how you're going to play in the first match and so on. Portugal waited. You still don't know how we play, but now we know how you play, so we can be very nervous or not, depending if we got surprised and shocked by what Wales or Fiji have done. At the moment, I think nobody was expecting the way that Wales played last night against Fiji, and that can bring some doubts and questions for Portugal because you were unpredictable for half of the time, and that can hinder a bit of things. Of course, you being bruised and have to play and substitute like 50% or 60% of the team, in paper can be a good thing, but in the other side, the guys that are coming in want the first team play, so they're going to play double effort in comparison to the guys that play against Fiji. So for me, it's complicated to say. If I was on the Portuguese camp, I would prefer to play on the first week. Well, let's go with the surprise and see things out. Second week, if I was in the team, so thankfully I'm not, I will be a bit nervous, jittery, and well, I wouldn't like to wait. I'm not very patient at sometimes, so and that's not a good trait, I know.
So, yeah, in terms of rugby in Portugal, what has it meant to just get to the World Cup and be there with the big boys, and what would it mean to put in a performance against Wales? What would it do for Portuguese rugby?
Well, I've talked this a lot and wrote about it for Rugby World Magazine for other places. And this is not me be arrogant or egotistical, but the most of the guys that are in this team saw Portugal play in 2007 World Cup as little kids or youngsters and got moved by it. Something in them awakened and they decided to go for rugby. Guys like Rodrigo Marta, Jerónimo Portela was the son of a Portuguese player that played in the World Cup in 2007. But David Costa and so on. So the big names in Portuguese rugby came from that 2007 moment. And what will happen in 2023 is a lot of new generations will be born because of this World Cup. And if we do well, I'm not saying get a win, but imagine if we get the win and fight in the most matches, I believe we'll go from six. We have currently 6,000 players in Portugal, from the under eight to the veterans. We'll go nicely to 8,000, 9,000 in 2 years, because people will want to take part of it and try to get on a national team, because that's how dreams work and so on. So it's pretty massive. And I think if it works like 2007, and 2007 was marvelous, but we were not a competitive team. We went there to win just one game. It was against Romania. We came very close to it, but couldn't have the cigar by the end. And in 2023, the team is quite different. We really play good rugby and very professional rugby at the moment.
I guess it's up until now, Fiji's been everyone's like second team, the team we like playing. So now that Fiji are kind of moving into the top tier, everyone's got to look for their new underdog. So the field is wide open in terms of is it going to be Portugal? Is it going to be Georgia, Chile? So I think everyone's looking for the next team to come through to kind of get on the bandwagon and support. So, Harley, what do you make of it? What are you expecting from Portugal?
I think, I'm going to jump ahead to the script a bit and give about the team Wales pick, because I think it's going to be a very heavily rotated side. I think you're going to have players like Mason Grady and Tame Basham in the side, players who I think are just going to run riot. Just whether or not it comes to anything, I don't know. But I think Portugal are more than game to have that. Having watched them in the Rugby Europe Championship the last couple of years, they are a fun team to watch. And I think they are stealing my heart as a second side. I'm not just saying this because Francisco's. I think when I reached out to him initially, it's because of how much I loved Portugal. I was so happy when they qualified for the World Cup. And but they've also got like some proper gnarl to them as well. Like they've got a very young squad apart from the front row, where they've picked a load of Pro Day veterans to make sure that that's shored up. Whether or not, I think Wales probably will be fine. I think it'll be parity. But I think Francisco said, if you take them lightly, they're gonna run some tries in against you. I do think this is gonna be quite a fun game. I do feel sorry from the fact that they've got a run of 4 games in a row, and it's going to just be bang, 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 one game after another, where other team, and sort of opposite to Australia who've got it, but Australia probably have the financial resources and the squad depth to just about get away with it, apart from maybe at fly half. but they are just fun to watch. I'll be honest, I don't know many of the players other than Tad. Apologies for pronunciation there. Taja, the hooker. There's something about him. I love him. Lee, you love him. I might share a picture of him because he's a nomination for Beard of the tournament. And in his WRC's photo, he's just got this huge smile.
Beautiful.
I think you'll love it. I genuinely do.
Beautiful.
And I said, the Pintos who are not related, which just reminds me of the 2007 with the Pintos who weren't related. I feel like it's like having Wales and having a Jones in this squad, although this is the first one in a long time we haven't. You've got to have a Pinto in the Portuguese squad. But I'm so excited to go watch to see these guys play. I almost wish now that I'd got the Wales Portugal package, not the Wales Australia package for going to the World Cup, because I am genuinely this excited to watch them play. Whether no disrespect to them, I don't think Wales will lose, but I don't think it's going to be as comfortable as people are expecting.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll come to predictions in a minute. So, Jay, we're all expecting a massive change to Welsh selection. Who would you keep is probably the easiest?
Would I keep? Do you know, I would be tempted to keep the centres because I want to see them get a bit of cohesion now. I think they've worked really well together, actually, North and Tompkins. So I'd probably keep them. I do think Wales are going to make a lot of changes for this game because 253 tackles, a lot of sore, battered bodies. I think the schedule has worked out really well for Wales, actually, because can you imagine if we had to play Australia next, having just come off the back of that bruising physical encounter with Fiji to then go straight to another huge match? I think that'd be very, very difficult. But I do think Wales are going to make a lot of changes. I mean, who are we going to see? We could see the likes of Halfpenny, Mason Grady. I probably think we'll see Chunza. Basham, I think, will probably get a call up. I'm interested to know if Anscombe is going to be available for this game because if he is fit, I think this is the ideal game to bring him back into the Wales fold. But yeah, I do think Ron Gatland is going to make a lot of changes. The only thing that does concern me is when you look at Wales in the past, particularly in the autumn series, whenever we've made wholesale changes against tier 2 teams, sometimes it's really backfired on us, so we struggle. Because when you make so many changes, you do lack that cohesion, when everyone comes together in those untested, untried combinations. So, I think we're going to have to do a professional job. Yes, Wales will win. I think that's pretty obvious. We will win. But we can't afford to take Portugal lightly, and I don't think that we'll disrespect them in any way. But I do expect a bonus point win. But it's not going to be like in World Cup score where you see 80 points to 5 or 140 odd. I don't think it's going to be like that. But I think this is an ideal game for a bonus point win, and then that puts Wales in a very good position. Then, so I'm looking forward to it. Though I am looking forward to seeing Portugal. As Ali said, I know very, very little about Portuguese rugby, so I'm looking forward to see how they do and getting to know their players. And a lot of people have said they play a really exciting, expansive game of rugby. And I'm looking forward. It could be a very entertaining game, couldn't it? Because if we're going to carry on in our vein of chucking the ball about, it's going to be great, isn't it?
Yeah, and I'd quite like to see the back row kept together to a certain extent. The back row that finished the game, I would like to see that. I think just from a captain continuity kind of a place, I would start with Jack Morgan on the pitch, and then maybe second half bring Dewi Lake on, assuming he's fit. And like you say, at Anscombe, I'm going to assume that Kieran Hardy's going to play just because, let's say, Gareth Davis got battered as well.
That'll be hard. He's not in the squad.
Oh, they went with 2, didn't they? They dropped him, didn't they? Sorry, yeah, they dropped him. They only went with the 2, didn't they? Sorry, that was me being.
I think they'll swap the.
Yeah, they swapped it. I think Gareth Davis had absolute battering. Every time he looked up, there was a 6'6" guy running at him, and so yeah, he did get an absolute battering, and it does show that the squad selection is a bit kind of. There are certain positions that you need extra cover in, hooker and scrum half being 2 of those positions. I think we are really quite thin because, Gareth Davis, I reviewed Gareth Davis's knock to the head, where he stayed down and he took an absolute belter to the head. He was going one way and the player was moving the other way, and then he cropped him with the shoulder. with the elbow. Sorry. So yeah, if I was Gareth Davis, I'd be wanting to sit out this next one just to
He was
kind of
play acting, apparently. Did you see the accusations
yeah,
on social media about him play acting? Now, I tell you what was bad. I can't remember his name. The
picked him
guy
up.
who picked him up. That's a
Yeah,
massive no. No, if you had a head to no, someone should have said something to the referee, or the official should have
yeah,
had a word, because that was bang out of order. That was
yeah,
bang out
yeah.
of order.
So yeah, I can see Thomas Williams getting a fair amount of the game. Like I say, I'm expecting Halfpenny on the pitch as well, but I would like to see Costello get a bit more of a run out. I just
He might be scrum half. He could be
he
scrum
may
half.
well
He
be.
is
He may
coming
well be
scrum half,
Scrum.
see?
Yeah, he is, isn't he? He is.
Yeah.
Go on, Harley. What were you saying, mate?
I was just going to say this is probably going to be the only time when you're going to see some of the more squad players, and it's basically a case of you're not starting them then. If you're not playing them then, when are you playing
When
them?
are they going to go?
So
Yeah.
I think because we're a bit lighter in the second row, I can see it being David Jenkins Strunza as the second row, which they've played together in the 20s and they work well as a unit. I
Yeah,
think
they
we
do.
might see the front row that came on last game, or the front row we haven't seen yet. One will start, the other one will be on the bench. I mean, potentially with Lake starting, just so he's the captain, and I'd rest Morgan. I think he put in a big shift, and you want him fresh for Australia. And I think your back row is probably going to be Lydia, who's going to bring that, so you've got that experience in the pack. Maybe bash him to 8, and then Raffle starting at 7. I could see it happening. And again, because Wainwright took, he had a bit of a bruising.
Everyone did,
and
like.
and then so that's the thing. I can see that changing. I think you're right. Thomas Williams will start. I imagine again because of the experience costs Anscombe, if he's fit, because they said he's training but not quite there. He'll probably be our starting 10, and then Costello will. I imagine they'll put him on as 10. They might try 6-2. I doubt it, but they could. I personally wouldn't. And then you're probably looking at Halfpenny, and then you're looking at Dyer, and I'd say you either put in Mason Grady, having Mason Grady there at starting at centre to cover the whole back three, and then maybe Zamet, or you put looking at maybe Zamet or Adams. I think Adams proves that he's so much better when he's on the left wing than the right. I know he can play there and he can play full back, but when he's on the left wing, it just works. So I think it's going to be a fairly change. I think the back three you can't really afford to because we've only got 5 of them. Unless you're going to put Anscombe at 15. But what was the point in bringing Halfpenny for me? So I think he's going to start.
I think the solution is to put George North to scrum half, and then everyone's happy. I think that's the solution.
Scrum after blindside, North the blindside, didn't it?
Right. Let's wrap up the Portugal game with some predictions. So, Francisco, as our guest, you get the honor of going first on this. So your score prediction for Wales versus Portugal, and you can say whatever you want just to piss us off if you fancy it as well.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a prediction, but I have written the real prediction in a paper which I'm going to leave in Portugal. And when I come back and next Sunday, I'll open up and I'll send it to Harley, and Harley will show it to you. Okay. So, and then you can have a laugh at the time. But the prediction is going to be 45 15.
45-15.
To Portugal, yeah?
Yeah, I was going to say to
Portugal, yeah, no, of course. Dodger with a hat trick with them all. It's no doubt about it. But I would say 45-50, 15.
Okay. So Harley, prediction?
Again, because I think it's going to be a change side. I mean, it's hard because because I think it's going to be Johnny Williams, Mason Grady in the centre, and I think those two can cause an absolute load of damage when they want to. And if they're having players like Basham on, I mean, this is just assuming what the team's going to be. I think it's going to be very unconvincing up to about 60 minutes, and then I think Wales are going to win by about 25. I'll put my neck on and be quite conservative. I don't want to be sick because I said I think Portugal are going to be able to keep with it for a bit, but I'm hoping by that time we'll have clicked a little bit and
that's got to be the least convincing score prediction you've ever come up with by about
maybe
I don't know
25.
because the problem is I've had experienced too many Warren Gatland tier 2 games where he's rotated the side and it's taken a Sam Davis drop goal to score a draw, or we've managed to just get a breakaway try at the end. I don't know. I could see us squeaking by, but then I can also see us running away with it. I certainly don't think it's going to be anywhere near like the last time we played Portugal, because we weren't allowed to pay players then.
Jamie, any advance on 25 or 45-15?
So it would not surprise me if it was really scrappy to start with and Wales were struggling, but then they pull away sort of in the last 20 minutes. The game opens up and then they start scoring a load of tries. I do think it's going to be convincing. I'm going to go for Wales by at least 45 points.
Oof. All right. So we're going up the ladder now. So we're going 25, 45. So I'm probably going to come down a little from 45. I'm going to say, I think we will actually put 50 points on the board, but I think Portugal will probably, like you say, they'll catch us cold at the start of the first half and the start of the second half, and I can see them putting 20 points on us. So 50 points to 20. So I think about a 30-point difference for me. But I just want to see the reaction on. I know it sounds stupid, but I want to see Portugal score and just see the reaction, and just like you're talking about, sometimes things are bigger than the game itself. It's about the game and the effect that the game can have.
Competitive.
So, yeah,
we want to see a competitive game. We don't want to see Wales blow 80, 90. I don't think they will, but I don't want it too one-sided. So like you said, it would be nice to see Portugal make a really good fist of it, and potentially they could.
Yeah, active with that one, supporters, and you just want to see people in the crowd really enjoying watching their team play and going, yeah, okay, this is something we can get behind. So, okay, so we have a spread of predictions, and I'll just chuck Carwin's in there. Carwin's is going to be something like 80, 90 odd nil, just because Carwin's dull like that. So yeah, but we'll put that in later. Right. So before we finish off now, let's do a little bit of fantasy league. So some of us took fantasy league quite seriously, boys. Some of us said we weren't taking fantasy league very seriously and got quite annoyed when their fantasy league team weren't scoring points. So top of the league, top of our league at the minute is Sir Dumpalode on 677 points, and then miraculously, I genuinely don't know how I got to second place, boys, but I did. And then Chris Roderick is in third, and he was top of the table all through the weekend. So I spoke briefly last week about how my boy was determined to beat me. So I'm on 645 points. He's on 570. And then I'm just going to keep looking down, boys, to see if I can find out. Carwin is on 498. Yeah, got to go down again, boys. We're down to 40th. Jamie, I've got you on 452.
Yeah.
Are you in here, Harley? You did put a team? Oh, there you go. Yeah, 300.
Yeah, I click random and just let it go.
Well, you're on 392 points in 57th position, and bottom of the table is 88th position is Carey on 154 points. And I've just had a look at his team. He's got some half decent players, but yeah, some of those players weren't actually on the pitch. I think I found out why he's at the bottom of the table.
I think that must be another one. I would like to point out I am ahead of Andrew Ford, the one for all the rugby videos. So
yeah.
So how many points
Andrew
you have?
Ford,
Sorry, how many points you have?
3.
Oh, yeah.
I had like 300 odd, just basically random, and then I just put a few. The only thing I did was I swapped a couple of players in who were playing.
No, because I take fantasies very, very seriously. I take them very 300. Are you sure?
Well, I say top of our league is 677, and I think somebody's top of the Welsh league on a ridiculous amount, like 800, 900 odd points. So
Anyway, the important things from this weekend. Yeah, there's some crazy points going on.
800.
Yeah,
I have 600.
Oh, you're below me again. Ah!
Damn it.
You should do it in the league.
Yeah. So the important bit from this weekend, okay, was the hair, tash, and beard. So, I mean, watching Georgia run out onto the pitch was an absolute pleasure because I like that. Particularly the hooker, who is completely bald and has got a beard like down to his nipples and looks like he's about 84. He walks onto the pitch like he's just finished the game. Do you know what I mean? You know, some people are like coming in and they've got like a shirt that's like almost been pressed and the hair is immaculate and you can see they just walked out the spray tan. This guy just looks like he's been dragged through a hedge backwards by a bloody WWF wrestler or something. So yeah, he's a favourite. But I think Naya Clavu's hair, I was loving it. Apart from the fact that he was battering us, I absolutely loved his hair. Now, there was a Japanese hooker, he came on as replacement hooker, with what I can only describe as pigtails. He had two things coming up out of here like this, and it just looked really, really bizarre. I didn't get his name, but I thought that was a cracking set of hairdo. But hairdo of the week goes to not necessarily because of his hair, but because of who he was sat next to. So there was a thing shared on Twitter from French TV with Chabal being Chabal with the hair and the grip, and it's long and it's luscious and it's look at me, look how manly I am. I am a beast. I can look at a piece of wood and set it on fire. I'm that much of a man, and cows fall down in the field so I can just eat them alive. He's got that kind of feel to him. And then sat next to him was Mika, the singer. And you could not get too further. And they were getting on really, really well. So yeah, for me, the hair award for the week goes to Chabal just because the contrast between him and Mika was absolutely outstanding. So yeah, that was my bit for the weekend. So before we finish up, I got a quick apology to make about YouTube. So we did say we were going to do YouTube live on Sunday for the Wales game. My apologies on that. I wasn't very well for a couple of different reasons, so I had to bin it. So I kind of, that's why I had to watch the game again today. I got back for the second half, but the first half was a bit of a non-entity, and it wouldn't have been much fun with people just staring at an empty screen. So we will have another go at it. We will get this sorted. We will get YouTube live. It was all there. It was all set up. It just, like I say, my apologies. It was me. I didn't quite get to it. So apologies on that. So that's us done for this evening, gentlemen. It has been a pleasure as always. Francisco, thank you very much for your input this evening, mate. I wish I could wish your team well. I really do. I hope they enjoy the game. Let's put it that way. I hope they enjoy the game. So if people want to follow you on social media, how can they find you, mate?
They can find me everywhere. Everywhere.
He's everywhere.
I'm everywhere. I'm like the air you breathe. I'm everywhere. On Twitter, you can find me by Fran Isaac 87, in YouTube, the same Francisco Isaac, Facebook, Instagram, whatever. I'm everywhere. You can find me. I'm going to be in Nice reporting and doing journalist takes, but I'm there to drink a beer. So if you want to come at me and fight or drink or talk a bit about how I think there's a conspiracy for me not winning any fantasy leagues this year, welcome. You are invited.
That to me just sounds like a drink of the week live. That sounds like a massive opportunity to do drink of the week. Just see how many bizarre drinks you can get in one place at the same time. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on this evening. We wish you all the best for the rest of the tournament. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you for your time, and goodbye once again, gents. All the very best.
Take care. Ta-ra now.
Ciao.
Thank you for listening to the Rap Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening as much as we enjoyed recording it. Please do rate us and tell your friends, as it really helps us to grow and get better. We'll be back next week with more of the same, and until then, enjoy your rugby.
Sports Social Podcast Network.
Judy was boring.
Hello.
Then Judy discovered ChumbaCasino.com.
It's my little escape.
Now Judy's the life of the party.
Oh, baby, mama's bringing home the bacon.
Whoa, take it easy, Judy. The Chumba life is for everybody. So go to ChumbaCasino.com and play over 100 casino-style games. Join today and play for free for your chance to redeem some serious prizes. ChumbaCasino.com.
No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited by law. 18+ terms and conditions apply. See website for details.